Welcome to the PodFather podcast. You can find all our episodes on podfather.me. You find everything about me. You scan the QR code, you see the 6 podcasts, or go to roycon.com. You find everything about my podcast coaching, or if you want to do a podcast tour. And if you're looking for a virtual assistant, go to va.world. And now we're offering websites from $300. My guest is the founder of Soul Podcasting Collective, a boutique agency that helps purpose-driven entrepreneurs launch and grow meaningful podcasts. With over 20 years of experience in digital marketing and podcasting, she has hosted multiple top-ranking shows and helped countless creatives turn their ideas into soulful, standout brands. A former homeschool mom turned full-time solopreneur, she's passionate about supporting women, especially mompreneurs and creatives who feel stuck in tech overwhelm, mindset blocks, and burnout. From San Francisco, California, I believe, CA, in the United States, please welcome Demetria Zinga.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it because, you're podcasting for a while. And I was kind of going through the notes as well and seeing the different shows. I think as from what I could see, 4, but sometimes shows disappear and everything. So I suppose, let's get your podcasting journey first. Let's start.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. My journey has been a long one and a fun journey. So when I first got started with podcasting, I started with, and it's such a long story, but I'll try to make it a little bit more compact for the show. But I started with we called an internet radio show. So this is right before I found out about podcasting RSS feeds. So in 2004, I started my internet radio show, and I was inspired by another lady I had been watching and listening to. Her name is Kelly McCausey. She had a show at the time called Work at Home Moms Talk Radio, so Wham Talk Radio. And I was a brand new mama, just had my first baby. I had just left the workforce because I'd been working at a job that I absolutely hated. And I spent 4 years there. And then I decided, you know what? I need to figure out something else for my life. So I started grad school, had a toddler. At the time, I said, I'm just going to focus on this work, but I also love website design. So I started my web design, kind of got the business bug sort of bit me. And before web design, I was doing soaps and handmade lotions and that kind of thing. And I love designing the websites. So I figured, you know what, I can make more money designing websites than I can making soaps. So let's kind of shift over to technology. So my master's program was also in interactive tech. And so that's where I kind of began my desire for learning tech and learning how to implement it just in my own world, in my own way. So I started listening to Wham Talk Radio because that's where I was in my phase of life at the time. And then she turned her talk radio show into a podcast. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And I wanted to see what was this all about. At the time, iTunes was new for me, newish. And I started subscribing to podcasts and listening. I said, this is so cool. So if I'm going to do an online radio show to encourage people, then I want to turn mine into a podcast as well. So at the time, like I said, this whole integration of technology into my world it was huge. And I studied interactive tech as part of my master's program. And then I was working on the website design. And so people were asking me for websites, asking me, can you make one for me? Can you make one for my husband, my business? And so I started helping other people in my community design their websites. But then I wanted to design something for myself that was more of a passion project. So I started a Christian faith-based sort of like women's collective, or just sort of this place where we can come together and talk about our faith and encourage each other. And it just seemed that the natural progression from text-based website to something where we can be more interactive was a natural progression. So I wanted us to be able to talk together, to pray together. And so we started having teleseminars. We didn't have webinars yet. So we had this free conference line we'd call into, and we like just encourage each other, pray for each other, talk about what's going on in our lives. And I created this like online magazine with talking about different aspects of her faith. So her family, her spirituality, her health, her wellness. And we did what I guess we kind of considered it an online magazine, a digital magazine, but it was just a website. It was a website. And then I said, you know what? Let's add the audio component to it. And let's just leave little audio messages where my site visitors can play the message, listen to it, feel inspired, and then they can respond to me via a Yahoo group. And so we tried to just create this interactive, engaging space, a safe space to collaborate. So that's the idea where I started creating that podcast, that initial podcast. It started, like I said, as an online radio show, and then it turned into a podcast when I figured out how to do this RSS feed. We had to get the RSS feed validated, all the tech stuff that we don't have to worry about nowadays because you just go to your hosting and it makes it for you. It makes the RSS feed for you. But at the time we had to figure out with the XML language and find a feed validator and then plug that into Apple Podcasts. Hopefully it will work if, iTunes accepts it. And so that's where we started the Christian Ladies Talk Radio. And that was my very first podcast in 2005. And from there, I have been creating podcasts ever since. So I've created 8. Of course, half of them are gone. But that's been a 20-year journey of figuring out the different ins and outs and the ropes of what it means to start connecting with an audience that I have no clue who they are. I've never seen them in my life, may never see them, but forming a connection with people all over the world. And it has been so instrumental in like my own personal growth. I've talked to so many people and just have grown. I feel like I've had coaching from so many different people as a result of these shows, and just yeah, it's been an awesome journey. So 8 total, but now we're down to 3 that are active. Some are archived, some are no longer there, but it's just been an awesome journey.
No. And then I just got an email, I know it was last week, from Apple celebrating their 20 years of podcasting. So you were right at the start. I mean, like I was 2018 when I started. So like, how did you find this kind of, I don't know, how did even people listen? Was it only on the phone? I mean, I went, the phones came in 2008. So
right. We didn't even have like apps to listen to them. So we were literally sitting down in front of your PC or your laptop or whatever you had available, and you put on your headphones and you looked at the screen and you listened. So we didn't have the sort of on the go as much. So we had our laptops, but I don't think the app was available. I don't even think we had apps for that on our phones. We were still on, I think I had a little Nokia flip phone at the time. So yeah, it has
so I think it was 2008 the iPhone came out, wasn't it? So it was yeah, so yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. So I suppose because there's listeners that are existing podcasters, but there's also aspiring, people to start this podcast. You have a lot more experience than a lot of people, and you've kind of obviously with the different age shows and down to 3, but I mean, there's lifespans of shows as well. And what would you like to have known then that you know now? I suppose we have to take the technology, but like, because I know that I look back and cringe at some of my earlier shows.
I think what I wish I had known is that, first of all, I didn't know I would fall in love with podcasting and that I would be addicted to it and that I would have to keep showing up or starting a new show. So, you might get bitten by the bug, but I also wish I had known that once I started receiving those downloads and people were starting to interact and engage and listen, and I'd start a new show and I didn't get the same feedback from that new show because it's a different niche, and I would get disappointed. I wish I had known that every niche has a different how do I say? It's going to give you a different feeling. You're going to have a different um, experience depending on what you're providing and who's interested. And so over the span of different ones, so I've had an education podcast, I've had a few different faith-based ones, and then I've had a few podcast and technology type shows, and they all have had different responses. And so rather than getting frustrated that, it's not going the way I want to, or I'm not getting that feedback right away. I wish I had just, relaxed into it and maybe stuck with a few of those shows a little bit longer just to see like what happens. Because today, looking back, some of the shows that I had 10 years ago, if I kept them up, wow, they would really have definitely made an impact because I see people today that are doing they have those same ideas, those exact ideas that I had, and they're running with it and they're doing really, really well with those. So yeah, just don't give up too easy and just like keep going because there's somebody out there who wants to hear what you're saying, right? So there's someone for everyone. And I think it's important not to have over expectations, not to expect too much too soon, because it is creating a relationship with your listener and creating that foundation where people can trust you. And that takes time. So it could be a year or two before you even start gaining some traction. So yeah, I wish I hadn't given up so soon on some of my shows.
And like, I mean, I've got the 6, and the Polish one is actually the most successful. That just recently is like 3 million between the audio and the video. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
But it's same thing. Like sometimes you create one and you just assume it'll just take off, and it's like
Right.
takes a while. But if you keep at it, it just starts building. And just look, I'd like to know, because I kind of started realizing there's a lot with the 6 shows, and there was times I would put out maybe 3 episodes and stuff like that. And I'm trying to kind of keep one on some of them. When you had to kind of say goodbye to some of the shows,
Yeah.
how was it emotionally? Because like sometimes people are saying to me, why don't you cut down to 3, or why don't you do this? But like you mentioned at the start, you get so much. It's like coaching yourself, because there's such amazing guests that you get on that you just go,
Right.
and your life changes for the better. It's even if you don't see any numbers, it's worth doing it just for that. But I'd love to know, because I'm not sure will I ever say goodbye to any of them. But I mean, I've thought about it. But
Right.
how is it emotionally? What kind of journey did you go through?
Oh my goodness. So each show was so very different and I had different reasons for pod fading each one of them. So one show I'm working on pod fading now, and it's my heart. And so I don't know if I can ever, but I'm at a stage in my life where it's not feasible for me to keep that show running for the long haul. And I think it's had its run. And so what I do, and then what I've did for other shows, is I just focus on what projects am I working on where there's already an overlap, right? So I have her Business Elevated podcast, but I also had a Mompreneurs and Heels. And I'm like, okay, there are women on the Her Business Elevated podcast listening to that one that are also moms who are entrepreneurs, mom entrepreneurs. So I looked at sort of like, what are all of the things that I'm offering at Mompreneurs and Heels that could be translated over to Her Business Elevated? Let's just merge that. And so that's what I did. I kind of gave my last, like, okay, this is my final show for 2023, and head over to Her Business Elevated for more if you want more information like this. But of course, leaving my shows archived. I've got to go back and make sure that that's still available. I think they may not be right now, but just making sure that those are available for people who want to listen to those older episodes. And then another thing that I've done is sometimes I take older shows that I've run over the years and just replay them on my newer project. And so I'll just let them know, hey, this was on Mompreneurs and Heels 5 years ago or in 2016, but let's replay it today. And then that way, for those who are not going to subscribe to my pod faded show, they'll still have access to some of that really great content. So I'm working on refurbishing that, or at least repackaging some of those audios and bringing them. But I just kind of look at places where I can basically just cut down on my time and energy and make sure that my audience knows I still care for you. I want to provide the best content for you, but at this season of my life, it's better that I combine these different shows, and you come over and join me here if you'd like, and continue to listen to my archives if you like. But that is the end of Mompreneurs and Heels. And so, and I've also done like name changes on my podcasts before as well. And that's been interesting, I think confusing for a lot of people, but I have changed the name of my show before. And yeah, so I just figured, let me focus on the one thing that I want to do for this particular audience, which are the women, mom entrepreneurs. And then I have the audience over here where there are women who are only interested in education and specifically home education. So let's just focus on education on that show. And then I have another show that's focused on only podcasting, and let's see how I can use my time most effectively. Super busy, but I love these shows, but I can't do it all. And that's kind of where I just draw the line and say, this is all I can do. And so please join me over here. And usually they do. Usually they trickle over and say, hey, I found you at Mompreneurs and Heels. I noticed that you're over at Her Business Elevated. So I'm subscribed there now. So it's worked out okay.
Excellent. And I'm just curious with the one that you changed the name, because my speaking podcast, it was originally the speaking podcast, and it was all about, public speaking or coaches and stuff like that. And then it kind of evolved, and I brought in authors. Then I kind of said, I'll just change it to just have good conversations. And then maybe it's so I changed it to Speaking with Roy Collin. And I don't know what way it works, but it definitely hurts you, because at one stage, and I don't even know, because you can't, when you're trying to look at the reviews, at one stage, I know I had over 1,500 reviews. I know if I go into the Apple thing, it's like followers are saying 12 or something like that. And I know it's not that, because it's in the top 1%. It wasn't the top app. I say the number. But whatever it does, it's not a good thing. It definitely hurt me, and I wouldn't do it again that way. It'd be like, you can start another show, but changing the name for some reason, it's like it has a code, and that's blasting it out everywhere. And when you change the code, it's like a brand new show. And unfortunately, I encourage me not. And I'm just curious, your own experience when you changed the name. Did you wouldn't have assumed something like that could happen?
Right. It was confusing to my audience because I changed the name from Web Success Strategies podcast to Mompreneurs and Heels. Like it was a whole different, just like even my audience and who I'm talking to. And so I wouldn't recommend that. And I did that for specific reasons because I just written a book about, it was called Mompreneurs and Heels, and I wanted to have a branded podcast to sort of accompany that book. And Web Success Strategies was already doing okay. So I'm like, well, how about we just change this and rebrand it? But it was a little weird, I think. But I also think that the people that I was supposed to reach began listening to Mompreneurs and Heels. And it was at that point where I noticed the shift in like how many downloads I was getting. So even though it was weird, it actually didn't hurt me too much. And because I was more focused and specific. So anybody who was listening before who might not have like, understood like what I was trying to do, would, maybe they didn't continue listening, but I know that I did by getting really hyper focused and niched about who I was talking to. It did seem to expand and to grow a little bit faster, but it was strange because anybody who was listening before was, I'm pretty sure, very confused about how I transitioned. But yeah, and it changes like even the name in Apple Podcasts, and it changes everything like your description. And so your audience starts to evolve and it kind of breaks some things in there. But I feel like it built back up quickly just because it was so hyper niche.
Okay. I'm just curious with all I mean, obviously at the start it was a different thing, but with the three that are currently operating, what platform do you use for hosting them?
Right now, I'm using Spreaker. At that time, I was using Libsyn, and I think there was one other. Um, I don't know if it was Podbean. I know I used Libsyn for about 2 years, and because I had multiple shows, it was so expensive to host through them. So I found Spreaker, and I've been told that Captivate is really great. So even now I'm in the process of looking into Captivate to see like, is this something I want to do? But right now Spreaker's it.
It's strange. I've heard a few people leaving Libsyn. There's a lot of people that started off there and they moved. Buzzsprout, I hear a few. Mine are on Spotify 5, but Podbean is the Polish one. And
Yeah.
I just found that their customer service is excellent. Like they're back within an hour. I mean,
Wow.
really good. Like they're incredible. And they have so much ways of promoting the show, all the little buttons. I mean, yeah,
Yes.
obviously you have to add the RSS feed and things, but they were doing like Samsung TV and a few different things. And I was like,
They
okay,
are.
and it's like all these little things
Yeah.
add up. And
It,
you,
it,
even if you get 10 downloads and say Alexa or something, whatever, it's 10 and here, 10 there, and it all adds up. And
exactly.
combined, that's what gets you up the charts.
Exactly. And my husband is using Podbean right now because he does a live podcasting on LinkedIn, and he's able to take that video and the audio, of course, and have it hosted on Podbean. So I think some hosts don't allow for video hosting. And so from my understanding, Podbean is one of the few that gives you the option for video hosting as well. So that's why he's using it.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of
Yeah.
stay. I don't use the video on the Polish one. I just put up the audio, but it's got AI now built in.
Wow.
You just pay a bit, but it's very good because it gives me not only the title, but it gives the description, and it's so good,
Yeah.
really good. It's like, oh, this is good.
I mean, you
I
can't
mean,
beat
I
it.
don't change it. Like, 'cause sometimes AI is like, it's not great, but with the Podbean one, I'm really impressed how good it is.
Wow. It's on point. Yeah, you can't beat AI when it's already got everything exactly what it needs to be. So
And
yeah.
with the like that's why I kind of stayed with Spotify because of the video. Because all of the ones I watch, they're all video, like Rogan, Patrick, Bet Dave, and I can watch it, but yet be
Yeah.
doing other things. And if they're showing something, then I can look and see the stuff. But it's great to have the video. But the other thing is,
Exactly.
because there's times I'd be looking at somebody, I see a different show, and then I go because I like to play an episode and listen to their format, and a load of them aren't available. You can't actually get them, even though you can see that they're there. And
Right.
I think that with some people, when it's paid, if they remove, I don't know how they can remove it. It's a shame because if it's on Apple, it should be there always. But that was my thing as well. That I think if anyone's thinking of removing it, I think you should transfer it to a free one.
Yeah.
And then at least it's always chugging away because you just don't know. I mean, if I look at
You'll
my,
never know.
say, a Polish one, like the first episode, it still outperforms. It's like 60. Last time I looked, it could be more now, but it was like 62,500 or something like that just for the episode one. And it's,
Wow.
and all of them, it's like the early episodes because people tend to go back and
Right.
you don't know. I mean, if you've got your details and everything, even if you, the fact that you had, 5 others, you
Yeah.
could have your details on that. And even if you put it in the description, you could get clients from that. So it's worth having it rather
Exactly.
than it disappearing.
Right, right. That's just one of those things with podcasting. Like you have to think about storage and what happens if you change hosts. And yeah, there's so much that goes into deciding on a good host because you do want to stick with your hosting for as long as possible and make that decision on the front end just because of things like that. So I've been really grateful for like uh, the ones that I've used. Spreaker has been really good for just having being able to accept all of my podcasts, and I can do so many. I have right now. There's 4 hosted with them, but if I change hosts, then I have to figure out, okay, is this going to transfer the way it's supposed to matriculate over? But yeah, I think it's really that's why I do think it's really important on the front end to choose a host. I mean, don't overthink it, but choose a hosting that you believe is going to meet your specific needs. So for some of us, like for me, that would be multiple shows. But for some people, like my husband, it's video storage. And for other people, it's maybe just having something that helps them with maybe the promoting part of it. So just kind of see what you really want from your hosting and then just pick one and go with it and just see if it's in your budget, all the other things work out for you and stick with it because like changing hosts it's a pain.
And I mean, like, because you're coaching as well. And like, when I tell people, I say it's like picking a car. I'm not going to tell you what car to buy. So I
Right.
have a schedule and I show them the different, and like, I'm not sure that they changed, but I think it was like Buzzsprout at one stage that it was like you get 2 hours free, but then it disappears after like 90 days and stuff like that. So I had all that high, because people
Oh,
wouldn't be aware of that, and they go, oh, I'll go with a free option when I'm starting. And there's so much tricks with some of them, and you just have to be careful. But I never
yeah.
kind of tell someone, go with this one. I can just show them what I have. And I'm just curious, are you the same, that you don't kind of...
Oh, no, I'm never going to tell anyone what hosting that they should choose, because that is a personal decision based on what their specific needs are. It could be that it's a financial thing right now. Maybe they need to start with something on a lower end package just to get started, or maybe it has to do with, like I said, their specific needs for what they're trying to host and how much they're trying to host. For example, if they're trying to podcast every single day, then maybe they need a lot more storage. So we're going to look at some different packages that would allow them more storage and to be able to podcast as much as they can throughout the month and not get overcharged for it. Or if they're just focused on video, maybe that's what we're focusing on, finding them a hosting that matches their needs for that. But I wouldn't say go with Captivator, go with Spreaker, or go with Libsyn. It's what fits their particular needs for what they're doing. Yeah.
So you were homeschooling your
Yeah.
child, so, which is brilliant, and I see it's on the increase. But you were doing it obviously before. I think it's a brilliant thing to do, because I mean, I've had episodes exposing the education system and everything. I'm not sure it was related to that or whatever, but it's not. It's better to be homeschooling them. But I suppose I'd like to navigate, because I think this is an important thing for podcasters. For me personally, like, I've equal custody of my son. My youngest child, he's 11, and what I do is I just block out times when I'm collecting him for school or whatever. So then I'm fully present with him and doing it. But I know, like, there's times that I have to have a show, and he's excellent. But he just puts on his earphones. He never disturbs me. But it depends on the age of the child and everything,
Right.
and when they're young. So maybe you might touch on the pros and cons that you've experienced over it, and maybe touch on the homeschooling as well, because it's
Mhm.
something that we're all going to experience, and sometimes most people aren't talking about this.
Right, right. In terms of working while homeschooling or just in general.
Exactly, trying to incorporate. I mean, you don't. Well, what I heard just from looking at it, I mean, my school goes to, it's copying the Finnish system, so it's a very creative school and everything. So I don't do the homeschooling, but
Yeah.
what I've heard is, like, you don't have to do 8 hours. Some people think you must do 8 hours, and I've heard from research that 2 hours is enough if you do it properly. But
Right.
everyone is their own way. But yeah, the
Yeah.
homeschooling as well as the working and
Yeah.
podcasting through it.
Okay, yeah. So I started homeschooling in 2008, or 2007-ish, something like that. And no, I was definitely going against the grain of my culture, my norms, my society, where I'm from, and it just wasn't a common thing, especially for someone who looks like me. It was not common. And so I definitely was stepping into a whole different world. So I had to learn a lot of things about what that meant for me and my children's experience. And over the years, we have made other decisions. So we no longer homeschool, but I am such an advocate for homeschool families, which is why I kept my show going. But when we homeschooled, and we did all the way from, actually, my eldest daughter graduated through our homeschool program, and my youngest now is in public school. So when we did homeschool, it was a matter of learning how to, for all of us, how to be a family together within the home and community context while working on our passions, while being able to do our passion projects. And so for my kids, that gave them a lot of freedom to work on things they loved while also getting their education. And so a lot of the times I was not one-on-one with them for everything. That would be absolutely impossible. I cannot teach everything. So I consider myself more of an education coach, a consultant, sort of, so to speak, just a coach and being there, a tutor in some ways. And as they got older, of course, when they're younger, it was very much hands-on. I was on the floor with blocks and teaching, counting, and all of that. But as they got older, it became more of a matter of, let's find community of other homeschoolers. And so we took them to these once or twice a week schools or education centers. We didn't call them, I think during COVID, we started calling them homeschool pods, but we didn't have that term. So we would call them co ops. And so all of us, we'd get together, and there might be, in one of my communities, we had a really successful co op. There were I don't know, maybe 50 or more families that just got together with all our kids, and we had a very organized system. And so parents were considered uh, sort of like, I can't remember the name. We weren't like teachers, but we facilitated classes. We created our classes, and then we had rotations and who was doing the nursery and who was doing high school and what classes. So I ended up teaching a lot of technology and web classes to high school, or watching the nursery with my daughter when she was really young. And we had lunch and we had recess and we had field trips and all of that. So for me, it was a matter of teaching my kids through resources that were available. So that was at the time, we had online classes available to us. There were courses online, and before the pandemic, it was a huge deal to find resources online for learning because most people didn't need that for their students. Students were in class. So we kind of mined for these things, looking for extra resources and finding teachers that were available to teach on Adobe Connect, and learning how to scout these resources for the homeschool community so that we could then have our kids learn under people that were accredited and knew and understood mathematics and English and science and math, so that we parents could take a breather and work on some other things as well. So that's how I was able to work on my podcast, run my business, and stick my kids in front of the computer to work with their teachers at the time, or take them to co-op to work with their teachers at co-ops. And then whatever help they needed, I was their assistant. I was there if they needed some coaching or some extra support. And if they were really struggling with something, that's when we pulled out all of our resources. We had so many books. We had like a library of like educational materials for them. So it was just finding what they needed and making sure they were on track for their grade level. Many times they were ahead because we were working at their pace. And if that meant work faster, we were working ahead. And so it was a good experience for what it was at that time. And then as they got older, it wasn't as great. And so then we decided to move on and do other things. But yeah, there's just a lot of figuring out how to manage your lifestyle with your goals for your family and still maintain your business and your life passions. And that's what we did as a family.
And when you had to record when the kids were at home, did you ever, what kind of systems had you in place to make sure that they're not going,
Yes.
mommy, when they're in, they
Yeah,
didn't give you.
we had a little system for that, and I was fortunate to have very studious and very independent daughters who kept themselves busy and were very involved in their own thing. So my youngest was into her own, like she created videos and dramas, and she was all into theatrics. So that was her thing. And so she'd be working on her thing, and my oldest daughter was on her online school at the time. She did like a couple of different virtual schools. So they were busy doing school and doing life. And I told them, okay, if I'm on an interview, you're going to see a sign on the door, and it's on my doorknob, and it'll just say, recording in progress. And they just know, like, okay, if I see this on the doorknob, she's recording, she'll be done in 30 minutes. And that's just how I did it. And then we'd come out and, go have lunch together or whatever. But yeah, it's just like, if you see that sign, mama is in a recording. So, and they weren't too young where they didn't understand how to manage themselves while I was busy. So that helped a lot. I think it would have been a lot more difficult when they were, especially when they were babies. I I barely found the time then to do the teleseminars for my very first project, what I was telling you about, Christian Ladies Talk Radio. That was difficult back in 2004 because I did have babies then. And so I would have to wait. Nap times, that was prime time when they're sleeping. But then also people who were on my seminars, they understood because I just told them, this is my life stage right now. This is where we are. My baby's going to wake up probably in 10 minutes and I'll have to go tend to her. You guys keep it rolling. And that's just how we did it. So, yeah.
Excellent. And my son, when he was 4, I actually brought him on an episode on this weekend, and I was thinking, will I do this one day? Because I just thought it was nice, and I got some great responses. People loved it, and he's done the Polish. Well, I've done maybe 10 episodes with him on the Polish, but even the other day I had a no show on the crypto. And then what I did is I went into him and I said, the guy, the guy wants you to come on and see, can he explain it like an 11-year-old child? And he got up and he came in, like I was only joking with him, but he came in and he was ready to do it. And I said, there's not many people who would actually do that. I thought,
That's amazing.
so I'm just curious, did you ever do any with your kids? Any shows?
Yeah, actually, I do recall. So they were kind of shy, so they didn't like to do a lot of things with me when it comes to my podcast, but they were involved in my videos because we did a homeschool video channel. And so they wanted to be involved in that just to sort of show our audience like how they did their lessons, and if we got like a new curriculum to review, right? So we would do an unboxing video and show what that looks like. And so I'm glad I did that because today I still have, those memories where I can go back. Some of that stuff might be archived on my YouTube channel, but I can go back and we can pull it up and see, hey, this is what it was like when we were homeschooling and you were 5 years old. And every once in a while we'll look at those videos and my kids just it's so entertaining. And so we're thinking about having a watch our family on YouTube day where we just, get some popcorn and just watch our past life, like our history up until now on YouTube, and then see which ones probably need to go on private.
So since you mentioned about the videos, so one, I'd like to kind of what different, because I use BitChute, YouTube, and Rumble are the ones that I put my stuff out in. But there's a load. I tried about 20 different ones, and they weren't really working for me. And everything is time. But also, like what you mentioned, I've seen a lot of people, they would have something that was done previously and then just turn it off. But what that does is it turns off your numbers as well. And some people actually have it so that it looks like I've had 5 million or whatever. So, like, I'd like you to touch on that. What's the pros and cons for doing that?
Yeah, well, if it's part of your podcast and if it's part of what you've created for your project, you should probably leave it accessible to your public and just so that they can see your history there. But if it's something that you maybe feel like it's a little personal and you don't want to share that aspect of your life anymore, or maybe you have people involved in that video that don't want to show that anymore. So then that's when we have to turn it off. And I think, yes, it definitely affects the numbers. That shows in your stats that you don't have quite as many views as you had before. I have some videos right now that have, wow, like there's one video I'm thinking of in particular. I think it's had over 100,000. I don't know. It kind of helped my statistics. And so if I turn that off, then I'm turning off a big number. But I have to also go back and see, is this okay for my family? Because I'm showing my family at that stage of their life. And are my kids okay with this? Am I still okay with this? Is my husband okay with this? And reevaluate, because now we're talking about our likeness and our visual of who we are being shown on YouTube. This is not just my audio. This is picturing and seeing my family. So I want that to be protected. If it was just, like a conversation with the client or something like that, then having them sign off on, yes, you're free to use my likeness in anything you do in the future regarding this episode, then I wouldn't question it so much. But because it's personal to my family, then I have to go back and reevaluate. So.
Yeah, I used to real estate, and I was kind of early adapter. I'm not sure how long. It was well over 10 years, 10, 12. I don't even know when YouTube started, but I was maybe 2012, 13. But I had a lot of real estate, and they were doing okay. But I turned them because they're not relevant to the thing. And even though the numbers would be a lot better, and would people still see them? Probably not. But yeah,
Right.
yeah. So unfortunately, so with the there's a few different things that you're doing. So I might touch on some of them, like the audit, the podcast audit. So you're helping people, you're going in, you're looking at the show. So you might touch what you're, that's not something that I do. I just kind of, I'm coaching people. I take them through the thing, whether they're existing or whatever, and I go through it. But you're actually auditing somebody and telling them advice, and then obviously you can help them. So you might just take us through what's a typical audit.
Right. So audits can include, actually, it's sort of comprehensive. So we're looking at a few different things. We're looking at the quality of the audios, but we're not just looking at that, right? There's so much more than how the sound of your audio or the look of your video, like there's so much more to it. So we're looking at the brand. Are you showing a strong brand presence that surround your podcast? Is your podcast connected to who you are and what you represent online? And so we start with kind of a miniature brand audit. Like what does your presence, what does that do for your all of your things, So that could be your videos, your audios, everything, and how that connects with your brand. So we want to make sure that you're standing out and that your brand is cohesive across all the different platforms, and that you're not looking one way over here, but something entirely different on another platform. We want that cohesive. And how does your podcast play a part in the role of your brand? Then we want to look at your voice, and not your physical voice, like your actual voice, but like the message that you bring. Is that clear in your videos, your audios, and your text, your blog posts, and your social media? Like that core message, kind of that it needs to be that underlying foundation for everything you do. And your audience will understand who you are and what you're doing when they hear that tone and that message and all the things you do. So the podcast, I feel, is just a spoke in the wheel. There's a whole entire wheel, and each spoke is pointed to the center, and the center of that is your brand and the core of your message and who you are. So that's kind of how we're looking at your branding. But then we're also looking at sort of the tactical things. So that would be your SEO. That's major for me. I always like to make sure that we're not putting that aside or leaving it on the table, because those SEO crumbs could really be bringing in the eyeballs that you want. And it's amazing to see how many people, if you go and look in your stats, maybe if you're using Google Analytics to look at your website stats and see how many people are showing up because they're typing in certain key terms in Google. And just because they were looking for it, they didn't know you were out there, but they were searching for podcasting made simple, or they're looking for podcasting is easy, or how to podcast. And so as they put in these key terms and they find you, that is speaking volumes to how you're able to use SEO to bring people to your brand. And so we look at auditing, making sure that your SEO keywords, those keywords are in the titles or in your description of your show notes, and making sure also to put that on your website too. So not just your show notes on your podcast host, but let's go ahead and duplicate those efforts, right? And put it on your actual intellectual property, which is your website, and have some keywords there. And then what else? There's so many different aspects to the audit that I don't actually have my workbook in front of me, and I would tell you like specifics, but there's a lot of pieces to it.
Explained a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces, and it's just great to have an extra set of eyes on what you do. And even I love getting an audit, just like someone that tells me, hey, you could be doing this extra thing over here that could help elevate your presence online and bring more people back. So I appreciate those. I get audits from an extra set of eyeballs. I don't want to just be the only one looking at my stuff. I want someone else to look at it and tell me what they think. And I think it's just a great way to continually improve as a podcaster, and just to make things better and easier. And then, and be able to help other people along the way too.
Yeah, because I mean, I've worked with people. As I say, I don't kind of do an audit as such, but I'm working with them to improve the show. And sometimes they've actually started off with a coach and they go along, because everyone's got different skill set. And it's nice to have somebody else just come in and listening in I mean, a lot of the time now, I even kind of look at the music and all the different, and it's like people assume because they've heard it somewhere else, this is the way to go. But if you're looking at your analytics, I mean, I look at everything. I know, no, this isn't working. This they're skipping forward. Why am I doing this? And then
Right.
tell people that as well, because sometimes I see some people that do 2 or 3 minutes intro, and you know,
Yeah.
it's turning people off. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, like you said, with the search engine optimization, people are coming in, they're listening for a few seconds, and it's like if you're just dragging on, you're just talking about the weather, they're like, yeah, they're gone. And it could be the best podcast ever. It could be perfect from,
Exactly.
but you have to remember that. So I don't do this because of time constraints, but I know that some people, what they do, they're taking a clip and they're putting it to the front that just grabs
Yeah.
the people. Are you doing that? Or
I have experimented with it. So I look at my plays and I try to figure out if it's a good idea or not to do it for all my shows. And I don't feel it's necessary for all of them, but I have tried it on a few just to have a little hook. But I find that for me, a hook is more of a natural, just me saying hello and and just talking about what's coming up on the show rather than having to grab a clip. But I do think that sometimes it's helpful when I have a guest. And so I'm using it more for that than I am for just like my own solo episodes. And I don't know, I don't even always do it for a guest. So I just think like getting straight into it, right? Just, an introduction and straight into the content. And I think a lot of times that's what listeners are just looking for, the content. And if they really want to be there and they really want to hear it, they don't need a hook.
And
So,
like
yeah.
obviously you can outsource that, but the thing is
Yeah.
the person that's editing isn't really in your headspace, and it's a lot of time because
Yeah.
you have to, first of all, I mean, I edit all my shows myself because I want to do the show notes, and then I
Mhm.
create the shorts, I pass them on to my team. But the
Yeah.
thing is, like, I know exactly, ooh, that's a good one. But
Right.
they're not going to know that. And like you have to listen to it, then cut it out, then put it to the start and put it. You're
Yeah.
talking, depending on the length of the show, like it's an hour, maybe 2 hours, like to do it properly.
Right. Right.
So like if you've one show, I would encourage people to do it because it can help if you get a really good like clip that grabs their attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you've got a few like us, it's
Yeah.
unfortunately it's not possible.
And I find that, the idea of having a hook at the beginning, I feel like that's kind of a newer idea for podcasting. As long as I've listened to podcasts, it hasn't been a thing. It just hasn't been. I mean, the old school podcasts that I listened to were just straightforward, raw, and most of the time unedited. And it just was what it was. And if you wanted to hear the content, you were going to be there for the long haul, listening to the whole hour of whatever it is. And so, with or without a hook. And so I just kind of feel like that brings, you know, I guess an extra set of types of listeners to your show who are intrigued by that little hook to help them to see, do I want to keep listening? But then you want to have listeners who have clicked on your show and subscribe because they do want to listen regardless, of whether you have the intro or how it's, how it is, because they see the title of that show and they want to hear that episode. So,
And when you were kind of in the earlier stages of the podcast, I'm just curious because with me, when I started, I just had the speaking, that was the first one. And I was taking out the long pauses, the filler words and everything. And then I would listen to it again, upload it and listen to it again to make sure it was okay. And it's like, and then I started looking at like, say, Patrick Bet Dave, they're just, it is what it is. It's just out there. And I'm like,
right.
I was thinking, does this hurt you? I mean, obviously the quality of a good mic and everything, but it's like that 5 hours that sometimes people are spending. It's way
Yeah.
better to put into marketing, and they don't. And most people aren't doing the marketing. They're just they're just
Yeah.
really, finicky about getting the sound perfect, getting everything right, assuming that's going to get them the downloads, and it's not. The downloads come from make people realizing you're there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can actually put in over 5 hours on one episode if you so wish to be meticulous and perfect about making sure everything sounds just right. And really, just like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so is that perfect sound. So not everybody's going to like the sound. And you could put in all those hours and still like somebody won't like something that they hear. So the thing for me is like what you said, like you really hit the hammer on the nail there when you said that it's about marketing and it's about getting the word out so that more people know about your show, not necessarily about how perfect the audio is. And back in the day, we didn't care. we just we just showed up and our audios were awful. They were awful. And looking back, I can't even believe that I allowed some of the audios that I did to surface in the world, but they were just awful. And it was kind of the standard and it was kind of expected because we didn't have access to studio quality equipment. We were using, and just to be honest, like this is so embarrassing, but we would have our headset that like maybe a telemarketer would use with the little mic that kind of comes to the front of your. So as we're talking, you could hear the mic rubbing against your lips as you're talking. It's making all kinds of noises and it's just not a great microphone to use. And so we didn't care. That's what we used. And the static was there. We were using freeconferencecall.com. We were using all these call-in systems and the phone lines. Okay. And so you can imagine the quality of that. Poor quality. And yet this is how we podcasted. I think there was a software we were calling into called trying to think of the name of it, but yeah, I can't think of the name of it right now, but it was a really popular audio something or other, audio acrobat. I can't remember, but we would call in, we'd pay $20 a month. So they would host our audios that we would call in with our visitors. And it sounded like you were on an old school phone line. So you couldn't correct those audios. There's no way you could fix it. And it was the expected standard and we accepted it and it was okay for podcasting. So fast forward all these years, the standards have definitely increased and we expect a certain level of audio professionalism. But I think at the end of the day, people just want encouragement. They just want inspiration. And we don't want an awful audio, no, but we don't need to be perfect about making sure everything is, cut and spliced. And like you said, the 5 hours, that's a lot of time. And honestly, that's what we do to help, our clients. But at the end of the day, if you just need to get your content out there, it's okay if you had a long pause or you sneezed or something happened. Like we're all very forgiving as listeners, as an audience, and we understand that we're doing life together. So yeah, it's important to just relax and share your message.
And I think the Polish one was about 6 years. And at the start, sometimes, I mean, we were doing it on Zoom as well. I mean, sometimes we done it together, but I have my setup okay, but their mic did have it not turned on or something like that. And it was my co-host and it was like coming from the laptop, but I still put it out. And as I say, it gets massive down. So now I've remastered them and put them out because there was some comments the sound is bad. And that's the beauty. Like you can actually remaster and put it out and say, hey, or even have a comment on that episode because you can go in and re-edit it. You can go into your first episode and make some notes and say, hey, I know the sound was bad. You can find it here and give the link to the new one. So even when you do make a mistake, because these things happen, sometimes even there was ones that I've done live with a few people and I thought this isn't going to work. I wasn't going to put it out. And then with the re-enhancement, Adobe and stuff, it was perfect. And I was like, So, there's times that you can actually make it sound a lot better. So with the marketing, you mentioned the search engine optimization. With your experience over there, like what other things could you teach the people on some of the marketing things that you could be doing?
Yeah, SEO is, I mean, that's what you should do. Just focus on that for those lost haul.
Search engine optimization.
Yeah. But if you're thinking long term, SEO is definitely going to be your number one thing, and because it does take a long time to develop, this web presence, and SEO is a big part of that. But also there's other aspects of marketing and you can get into ads and that kind of thing as well. And that can help bring immediate, eyeballs on what you're doing. But my expertise I guess I would say where my comfort zone is in helping people has been in the long-term game. And so developing an SEO strategy and also just being willing to create a social media presence and strategy to accompany that. So it's not just having a presence on Instagram, for example, but creating a strategy where you're showing up on Instagram. Choose your platform. Maybe it's not Instagram, maybe it's, for some it's TikTok, for some it's LinkedIn. Just choose what it is, but develop a strategy for that platform and stay consistent with it. And so that's kind of part of the sharing what you do with the world. But as far as foundation, I always say that the most important thing is having your brand and your web presence be your foundation for all that you do. And from that hub, or that central hub, or your home base, which is your website, your blog, everything you're doing there, that's where your podcast should also kind of have a home. And that's where you want to build out your SEO strategy and just be really intentional about keywords. Be very intentional about your thought leadership, what you're doing, so that Google knows what you're doing. And at this point, we're going to have to start thinking of like AI as well, not just what Google is looking for, but like how to strategize for AI. I'm still learning all of this, but I just believe that your central hub is your website at this point, and just continuing to look at that as your home base. So when someone types in your name, they should probably find your website with all of your content, right? And all of what you're doing. And your podcast, of course, is a part of that. Rather than only finding Libsyn or finding Podbean or a host with your content, it should be connected somehow to your own personal brand online, which is, your space on the web.
Oh, excellent. And say like the monetization thing, because there's, people are constantly looking for ways. And unfortunately, that's why a lot of them kind of throw in the towel and they give up. What things could you kind of share that people could be doing for monetizing?
Monetizing their podcast.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so for me, what I have been doing is sharing myself and what I do in my company, and that has been my monetization. It's basically sharing my business and spreading the word about what I do. So I become sort of, I guess, my own sponsor, I guess. But also there are other ways to monetize, and you can run ads. I've done ad placements. I found that just in general, they haven't been as effective, but I have done some sponsorships. And so those have been really great, especially for my homeschool podcast. So connecting, collaborating with education publishers and having that kind of relationship with publishers where they trust that my audience is going to be responsive, very likely responsive to what they're offering. And so if you're in a niche that you can find that type of collaboration and are able to share your numbers where you're comfortable sharing those, and having a media kit whereby sponsors want to pay you to have a spot on your podcast, that is definitely a great way to monetize your show. And the other way is you can do affiliates, so affiliate links, right? And connect with a brand or a product that you really like and start sharing that on your show. And every time you make a sale, you get a percentage of that. You can share someone's course, their product, someone else's content that they've created, and they're paying you a percentage of that. That's a great way to monetize. So there's a lot of different ways, but if you have a business, definitely you should be sharing your business and what you do. Maybe not throughout the whole show, but maybe at the end of the show or a little bit at the beginning, but definitely share what you do, because this is your platform and you're paying for your hosting, you're paying to be there, right? And so make good use of it and share what you do. Don't be shy. Don't be ashamed of sharing. There's no such thing as that, because that's your listeners are here to support you as well. They want to know what you do. So, yeah.
I've used affiliates, but I totally agree with you. I think promoting yourself, I mean, you saw the way that I do it. I kind of do it the start, the end. And it's like, if people want it, plus I have it on my forums as well, where, when people are coming on and then they choose, I say, hey, you're interested in this. And you'd be surprised, there's a lot too. So I'm never doing a hard sale. People want it or they don't. And I prefer that. I don't like, the cold calling and things like that, or just even the ads, because I see so many people and they're paying a lot of money for ads, or lots of companies to even get them leads, and they're charging $6,000 to do this. I think
Wow.
they're, this load not working. So it's a great way of actually getting business for yourself, because then you can get on. Sometimes you can even invite somebody that would be ideal, even though it'd be still a good guest for your audience. And
Mhm.
they can actually even become customers as well. You just never know. And
You
yeah,
never know. Exactly. Sometimes those you interview or someone that's on your show may be a great, client for you in the future. You may end up with a nice connection there. And so, yeah, there's different ways to monetize, but they're just kind of be open to all the ways that you could make money. It's not just, ads only or cold selling or any of that. It's just kind of looking at it from a wide aerial viewpoint. Like, what are the different ways we can show our audience what we offer, deliver, our services, show them what we do, and then invite them to participate or share, spread the word with their friends. Even if they're not interested, maybe they'll pass along the word to someone else. And that's why I like to offer freebies also. I think that's important, like just having something that they can take, a value that you've created that they can share with other people. And, you grow your list. And that's also a great way to monetize, grow your list.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
like what you said earlier as well is with the social media, because everyone tries to do 50 of them and they get
Yeah.
overwhelmed, and then they get, but that's the way I kind of done is I put more effort into one and I get that. Instagram never worked for me. I just couldn't get my head around that one, but
Yeah.
Facebook worked out good. LinkedIn's not too bad, but TikTok, no, I'm like something like 850. I think by the end of the month I'll have the combined channels. I just started a Polish one. That's what I have three. It'll be combined like 1,000 views or a million views actually, a
A
million.
million people.
Yeah.
Wow.
So exactly, and like sometimes I put out stuff and it's like, well, it's not really book, but you have to play around with it because you put it out,
Mhm.
nothing. Then you go, all right, the timing of what your previous post, you're only allowed so much, and then you just delete it, put it out again, and then it just takes off, and you're like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, and sometimes even ones that you just kind of just silly or just do something, just mention something that can
Mhm.
get 10 times more because they want you to do a recording
Right.
live and just send it out. That's out there as opposed to record the video yourself and put it out there. So you
Right.
have to figure it out and just start researching and research. Like
Right.
everything I've done, like YouTube now, I'm working hard on trying to figure that out. Like
Yeah.
the Polish one is like 1.5 million views on that, and it's 13,500 subscribers on it. Well, my own one, because like I had one kicked off, the Awakening was kicked off, so I've now my own one, my Roy Calling one, and I've got all the podcasts going out, and that. I, I've read books. I'm trying to figure out. It's hard, like but it's a kind of project for me. I'm watching daily what the numbers
Yeah.
are. What can I do? But there's no way you could be doing that on 10 of them because
No.
I have the other ones kind of sorted out. But if you put your energy into something and just really try to get it to work, and sometimes you go, nah, this isn't for me, and find some, but that's how you get it to grow, because then
Yeah.
with the engagement. But one thing that's kind of important as well is, and a lot of people don't do it, they go in and they just post on all this. You have to engage, unfortunately, have to make comment. It's a lot of work. It's like,
It's
and
a lot.
can you outsource that? You can, but it's the same thing. They're not your head, they're not my head. They don't
Right.
know. So someone writes something and they could say something that destroys your name because they'd be saying that it's you. You have to be very careful. So
Right.
I would even say set aside a certain amount, even if it's 15 minutes a day, to go in and comment and stuff like that. It
Yeah.
makes a difference. And like I've done one recently. I just make comment, and I saw this like 500 likes on it, and I like I post something, I don't get 500 likes.
You're like, how did that happen?
But
Yeah.
because if you keep doing that, and I don't do as often as I say, but I tell people to do it, and we have to kind of make sure that we make an effort doing these things.
We have to make an effort. And I love that you're trying different things on different platforms. And it is it's really difficult because every platform works so differently. And once you learn the ropes of one, like you got to learn a whole, like you're learning all over again for a different one. So like I'm amazed at what you're doing on TikTok. I haven't, like, I'm stepping my toes into the waters of TikTok. I am nervous about it because I just don't feel like maybe it's the best platform for what I'm doing, but I don't know. So I want to try, but definitely I have been focusing on YouTube and not getting much traction there, but I have been focusing on it and LinkedIn. And I think, like you said, like the engagement is the big thing. So Instagram for me is also working out okay, and it's a slow growth for me right now, but I'm learning that the more I engage, the more my reels are being shown and the more people are starting to kind of respond to older reels and stories or reels that I put out like weeks ago. And I'm just like, oh, people are just now seeing that in their feed. And I put this out 5 weeks ago, which means I need to keep engaging. So there's like a game for every social media platform. And we just have to know what that, like how to play the game. So yeah.
Yeah, and I have them connected. So when I say my Instagram isn't great, it's like the followers and stuff, but the reels, like, because what I do is, because I have a lot of shows, and just like yourself, you get a lot of content. So I create, sometimes you can get 20 shorts from an episode,
Yeah.
and we put out the reels during the week. And like even say the Polish one, sometimes on the Facebook, six shorts going on that. Well, it splits into two because they're short. Sometimes there was times it got 10,000. And
Wow.
always they're like, like a lot now, they're just increasing like 1,000 to 1,500. But what happens is, if you're doing the reels, you're doing the TikTok, you're doing this, it all starts adding up. And then you're looking at your
Right.
numbers and you go, okay, this is okay. Because what happens is sometimes people, they're only looking at, say, the one thing. And then they kind of go, this isn't worth it. But if you look at all the numbers and just, I don't overwhelm myself. I just do it first thing in the morning. I check everything. That's it. And then that's the way I started off. And
Right.
and then I can see why have they gone up, why have they gone down. And it's just constantly improving. And they keep going up because I'm keeping track of it. And if you keep track of it, then they'll increase. And yeah, it is
Yeah.
enjoyable then.
Yeah. You have to keep track though, like you said, and devoting a few minutes every day to look at your stats and then a few minutes to comment and not let other people do it for you because sometimes and I do have a friend, I have a personal example of someone who has allowed someone that they've hired to work on their behalf and they misrepresented their brand. Unfortunately, that does happen, and if you're gonna outsource, you really need to find people that you can trust and that you can teach them, like, what you're about and make sure they understand what you're about before they're out there representing you. Otherwise, do it yourself and do it a few days or a few minutes every day, like you said, and just be engaged and be in the game, know what you're doing, know what you're about, and just yeah, because it only takes a few minutes to engage, really.
Exactly. And just finally, is there any software that you're using that you think everyone should know about?
Oh, that's a good one. There is one if and I hope I remember the name of this correctly. It's, Adobe Podcast, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I use that. That's brilliant. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because it's awesome. It does transcriptions, but it also does your audio cleanup. So, if you just needed to clean up your background or just, bring some of the static out of your audio and you just wanted a cleaner, crisper audio. Just run it through Adobe Podcast and let it enhance. The AI enhancer will do everything you need it to do. And then you can do whatever you need to after that. Bring it into your Audition or whatever you use. But like that can be a sort of a first run through or a first pass to correcting some of the things, some of the imbalances in your audio. So essentially, that's part of what we're doing in our company, and you can do it too. You can just use Adobe Podcasts, and it can definitely fix a lot of things in your audio.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. You might let the listeners know where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm at a couple of places, but I'm going to give you one place. So just to make it easy, you can find me at soulpodcasting.com. And you'll find all of our things there, our socials, everything is there.
Okay, perfect. Yep. I'll make sure I put the links both in the audio and the video. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
So that's all from the PodFather. You'll find all our episodes on podfather.me. As mentioned, you can scan the QR code, find my 6 podcasts and all my coaching and all the different things that I do, or go to roycalling.com. And if you're looking for a virtual assistant, go to va.world. Sure to give us a thumbs up, 5-star rating, share with your friends. And when you check out Demetria's podcast, do the same thing. Give her a 5-star rating. It really helps. Until next week, take care.